volunteer to help set the thing up. We operated from the back of a church hall on trestle tables on a Friday evening.
Good afternoon, Neville.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to make a withdrawal, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
There's quite a few of the founding members who are still involved in the credit union. I think that says something about the people who work and volunteer with us.
Right, can I just hand that in, please?
Yeah, we'll go through it together and see what we need.
I was one of the founder members of the credit union when it started in 1992. 225. OK. Never heard of a credit union before I volunteered. See you next week.
Yeah, have a nice day.
I'm member number 21, which I'm really proud of, and I'm still with colleagues who originally joined back in 1992. They're still here serving our community, serving the customers.
You know, you see them in the street, you know, they'll say, what's my balance in the middle of the road? You don't know, obviously, do you?
Today, single mum of two Christine has come to see if the credit union can help her with a loan to get her soul food business back on its feet.
Well, soul food is basically like Afro-Caribbean food, you know, chicken rice, stewed beef, curry goat, straight from the heart. And my fridge freezer has just broken just before I started it, so I need to get a loan to get a new one.
It's also the fridge the young family depend on, so the loan is urgent, especially as London is in the middle of a blistering heatwave. Branch manager Michelle is on shift today. She has known Christine since she became a member in October 2012.
Hello, Christine.
Hello, how you doing? Not too bad, thank you.
What's brought you in today? How's the business going?
Well, it's not going too bad, but my fridge freezer's broken. So
When did that happen?
It happened last night. Temperature just started going down and spoiled my meat, so...
And is that affecting your business at the
it's
moment?
affecting it, yeah, so I haven't got a fridge freezer at the moment.
So what's the name of your business that you've called?
Oh, so basically I've called it Grub Plug.
Oh,
and it's just selling soul food, you know, jerk chicken rice, curry goat, all nice and healthy.
OK. So if the fridge freezer, we're probably looking at maybe, like you said, about 400-ish.
£400, yeah.
So if we look at a £500 loan for you?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Christine already has a loan with the credit union, so any new borrowing will mean an increase in repayment. But it will also mean a boost for her secured savings pot, as members must save as a condition of any loan.
At the moment, you're currently paying £6. It will be a slight increase, but not too much. It's £10 a week and £2 going into your secured, you know, the one that constantly builds up, which you've got a healthy amount in there at the moment. Obviously, that's the minimum requirement that you can sign for, but you could pay more if you so wish. So is that something you'd like to look to go ahead and process?
Yeah, that sounds fine, yeah.
Right, OK then. Once you're happy with all the decorations, just sign there. Hopefully, we'll get an answer for you as soon as possible. I think little one's been very patient. That's enough now, bless him. So we'll start processing this loan for you on an urgent, and we'll give you a bell as soon as possible.
OK, thank you very much.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you for your help today.
Take care, you're very welcome. Bye,
Say
love.
Bye.
Bye. High five.
Yay! Good boy.
Christine has two young children that still require milk and bottles. She has nothing to facilitate that now. Also, it's putting pressure on her business. She's already lost money through spoiled meat and other vegetables and other things that she had to throw out. So normally all our loans would be up to 5 working days. On this particular situation, I'm going to put an urgent on it and escalate it to our team to see if they can process it as soon as possible.
It's now up to Michelle and the team to see if they can help Christine before things get worse for her business and her family. As well as the credit union, there are dozens of other responsible lenders up and down the country, helping people change their futures.
Joe, do you know if we have any of the menus?
For Joe and Renee from Sheffield, an ethical loan hasn't just changed their lives, but the health and well-being of their community too.
This evening we expect 30 people, so we've limited on places to 30, and they sell out usually at this event within 3 minutes. It's like Glastonbury. People are waiting for the tickets.
In the bottom of here, we've got lemongrass, samphire, ginger, garlic and onion, just making the base for a stock.
Remarkably, All the food being served here has been saved by Joe and Renee from ending up in landfill.
So, just a quick introduction. Tonight, as I said, is a celebration of food. We make enough food in the world to feed everyone and still have food left over. And the fact that we failed to do that is a big shame. So your job tonight is to make sure that that doesn't happen.
It's all part of a project set up by Joe in Sheffield to prevent food waste.
We've been running for just over 3 years, and we want to reduce the amount of food that's wasted.
It also provides a fairer access to food for everyone in Sheffield.
All the food they use is donated by retailers around the city, with Renee and the team doing as many as 15 pickups a day, 6 days a week.
So we're going to pick some food up from the wholesale markets. So these are all wholesalers that sell lots of fresh produce. So anything that they don't feel they can sell on anymore, yet still good for human consumption, we make sure someone gets to eat it. We've got loads of onions, and some of them obviously are sprouting a bit, but they're still hard, so they're perfectly fine. So we'll take all this back to the warehouse and make sure someone eats them.
As well as pop-up dinners, they run a donation-based cafe.
You get a good breakfast here.
A pay-what-you-like shop.
We've got some asparagus, a handful, is that OK?
As well as providing food to schools and businesses. It's a far cry from Joe's old job as a business development officer that 4 years ago brought her to a crossroads in life.
I got to a point where I had a choice, and it was either move to London for this job and follow the money, basically, or do something else. But I couldn't really find or work out what that something else was.
But then she heard of a project in Leeds, using surplus food to feed the community.
I wanted to have more impact in the world, and for me that was the light bulb moment. I could just see it all straight away, really. So I ran up the stairs to Renee, I think at the time, and said, I've actually found what I think is my thing. When I started the project, that was just over 3 years ago, and it was just me doing it, and I was doing it predominantly on a voluntary basis. And at that point, I had some savings to live on, and we just kind of ran monthly pop-ups, and any income that kind of was generated with these monthly pop-ups went just back into the project.
It wasn't long before she realised that they were only scratching the surface of what they could achieve.
So for us, we realised quite quickly that we needed to be able to scale up our operation. We knew that we needed a van, that was the first thing. And then we needed storage. All the food was in our house. We would need staff, and we definitely need a much bigger premises. So yeah, that was kind of the next step, and why we realised that we need some finance to help with that move.
To establish themselves as a full-time enterprise, but wanted to find a funder who understood the aim of the business was to help people, not prioritise profit.
If you don't have a profit motive and are set up as a regular business, then all of a sudden you're seen as a big risk, because people don't understand why you're doing it and what you're doing.
They got in touch with Key Fund, who invest in ventures they believe will make a difference to communities across the North and the Midlands. Asha Kabari was their investment manager.
The biggest risk for our investment into the Real Junk Food project was their ability to be able to generate sufficient income, but we worked with the cash flows and the projections together, and we came up with a plan of a worst-case scenario, and even under the worst-case scenario, they will still be able to borrow ostensibly from Key Fund and be able to repay without any stress on the cash flow.
A couple of tea cakes, yeah. Do you want those butters? Yeah. Yeah, sure.
It was really important to be able to talk to an organisation like Key Fund, who had seen this as a gap and had tried to build solutions that would help organisations like ourselves.
The loan company offered to lend Joe and Renee the £40,000 they needed.
I was the person who gave them a call straight after our investment panel meeting and told them, you know, yes, the panel have agreed my recommendation.
We were elated when we got the news, because it was really like, you know, the starting shot for everything else that followed. It meant we could actually start to hire staff and get a warehouse, which meant we could all ship all the food out of our living room. We could start to work on sort of building the business, so building a schools program and getting schools on board, working on opening other cafes. So yeah, that was extremely exciting when we got it.
We kind of look at the entrepreneurs and see their drive and passion, and they're the people that we invest our finance to. So it's having a belief in them and seeing what they can deliver. It was quite heartfelt and inspirational because it was about food wastage. I've got a young family and not everybody can afford to put a nice, healthy family meal on the table. So for them to come and say they've collected all this food wastage and they're just wanting to help feed people's bellies and not put the food in bins without having any financial benefit for themselves, yeah, it struck a chord.
2 years later, and the project is a huge success.
It's a coffee and walnut cake made from ingredients that would have gone into landfill. Look at that.
In the last year alone, they've produced over 80,000 meals in the city, which have been distributed through the cafe, shop, local schools and pop-up restaurants. Now, they've even started catering for weddings.
You realise just how ridiculous it is that this was just going to go in the bin. So it's affected how we think about things, I think.
You know, I think it's a brilliant idea. It just makes sense, doesn't it, for it to be being used rather than being thrown away.
People love what we're doing. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's absolutely wonderful. It should be done everywhere.
Today, Asher has come to visit to see how they've grown and the impact they're making to the community.
Good to see you.
Whoa.
It's been a long time.
I know, you okay?
Yeah, very good. How are you?
Seen you being busy.
We have been, yes. I'll show you around. So the shelving, I think, is new since you were here last.
Yeah.
We're trying to sort of roughly keep track of all the things we have, but yeah, there's a lot of very random stuff here. They're going to the chocolates.
Nice box of chocolates.
I've got a bigger box for you, but I was going to be surprised, but I shouldn't have come in here.
Since Asher's last visit, they now have a new warehouse that's fit to burst with donated food.
And the stupid thing about all of these is they are all in date, like these aren't even out of date.
really?
Yeah. These are all joints and free-range chicken, not just any chicken.
Yeah. Great.
So every type of item we now have a fridge full of. So the breakfast freezer. Been growing the catering business, so this summer we've got at least a wedding every month.
I was going to say you're doing weddings now.
Yeah, yes.
Makes me want to get married all over again.
Of particular interest to Asher is the donation-based food market, as it has the greatest social impact.
Do you want to come and see the market, Asher?
Yeah,
I'll show you
sure.
what we've got in here today. Follow me.
Oh, wow, there seems to be quite a variety.
It brings market fresh produce to many people who otherwise might not be able to afford it.
That's all right. Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is very impressive. It's very organised and it's in various sections. So, yeah, it's great. It's just like being at a normal supermarket.
It's pretty good.
It's very healthy.
Fairly regular here, to be honest. It makes a big difference to our weekly spend.
Has it been worth the whole heartache?
Yeah, definitely. I think for us to kind of approach you and come up with a plan of how we could turn this into something much, much bigger and more effective has been mind-blowing, really, and just being able to see how many people it's affected their lives positively. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
The contribution that the Real Junk Food Project and Renee and Joe themselves have contributed is immense. It's probably a legacy that they're going to leave behind.
So it's great to show Asher around today. It's nice when someone sort of trusted you to do something well and you can show them that you've achieved that. You know, that's great.
Oh, wow.
I'd like to present you with a thank you gift from all of us here at the Junk Food Project.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome. Just wanted to thank you so much for really believing in what we were doing and seeing our vision and understanding why it mattered to us, but also believing that it would work as well. So that was a real kind of confidence booster at the start for us. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're most welcome. You both have got the hardest job, so yeah.
Hey guys, here's your starter.
And that is delicious. Absolutely perfect.
I think the future for the Real Junk Food Project in Sheffield will involve a lot more food. Like, we are only dealing with a tiny amount, even though we're collecting, 5-6 tons a week at the moment. There's a lot more out there, and hopefully just expansion in everything that we do.
we've proven you can do something in a different way because we're doing it, we're here, we're feeding people, we're picking up food, we're making a massive difference.
I just find it quite inspirational what they do, the fact that they take all this food that would literally have gone into landfill and been wasted, and they make an amazing full-course meal out of it.
I think if you've got an idea and you believe in it, then yeah, you should definitely take some steps and to see if it's viable. There are so many people who are willing to talk to you. I suppose you don't know until you try, do you?
The percentage of our income that we save in the UK is at its lowest since records began.
Then the time you pay everything out every month, it's very difficult to put savings aside.
Savings, you can't think about savings. It's so difficult now, isn't it? You just take every day as it comes.
But credit unions are doing their bit to encourage people to help the pennies, look after the pounds and get saving.
Morning.
Yes.
How can I help you today?
I want to put some money into my savings.
OK.
Just like here in Sydenham. Today, foster mum Lorraine has come to the credit union to expand her savings for her family.
I came on Friday and you told me to ask about share-free account.
Oh, OK, you want to open that up, yeah?
Yes, please.
OK, so if you got to the cashier's desk.
All right, thank you.
OK, done.
I've been using the credit union for about 5 years now. I basically started fostering, so I'm opening up a saving account for my foster son. He's 13 years. It's a pleasure to have. So, yeah, it's good to let them, from a young age, learn how to save, so to speak, yeah.
Lorraine's family have lived in the area since 1960, when her grandparents arrived from Jamaica. But saving for a rainy day was made a lot harder for them.
When my grandparents first came, because they were part of the Windrush generation, they weren't allowed to open bank accounts, so basically they started their own way of saving.
Her grandparents used a way to save that's popular in the Caribbean. It's called a partner, using an unofficial partnership among people to save collectively. A lot like an informal credit union.
Even though my grandparents are not here, my aunt still does a partner. If I can do partner, I would do it, but I've got my savings account now.
Morning.
Hello.
Hi. I came Friday and I want to put another £10 in my son's account, and I want to find out about opening a share 3 on my account.
Your account, you said,
yes,
yeah?
Please.
And you would like to open a share 3 account, an extra account
please.
on the same number, yeah? OK, that's fine.
Member accounts are called share accounts because as a cooperative, each member owns a little part of it, receiving a dividend of their local union's profit each year.
Right, and you've got the cash, yes? Thank you. So now there's now £20, yeah?
OK. My grandparents were the one that really instilled us to save when we were young. My granny used to say, you need to start to save for a rainy day. And I never understood what she meant because I was too young to understand back then, if that makes sense. And as I got older and started to work and accumulate my own, funds, I started saving, basically.
Are you going to put any money in it today?
Yes. Can I put £50 in?
Yes, you can.
Here it is.
OK. Right, that's in there for you now.
OK, thank you.
OK, have a nice afternoon. Bye.
By the time they leave home, both boys under Lorraine's roof will be that little bit better prepared for adulthood, and it's all thanks to her.
I got my son to start saving. Now I'm getting my other child to save. My mum saves now, even though she didn't want to, but she saves now. So, yeah, Oh, and my brother.
She's well and truly carrying on the family tradition. Coming up, a couple consumed by decades of debt.
It was a big, big secret. Our families didn't really know how much we were struggling.
That just adds to that feeling of being trapped, really.
Christine discovers if she'll be back in business.
Good afternoon, Christine. Thanks for coming back.
And an ethical loan makes a boyhood dream come true.
It was a massive moment because had it not been for that, that probably would have been the end.
In Belper, Derbyshire, Raymond, a software engineer, and Jenny, a former antenatal teacher, have lived with consumer debt for the entire 25 years of their marriage.
When we met, we were part of the same social circle, and Jenny was known to me as the woman at the bar in the Larry trousers.
Our eyes met across a crowded room at some point, yeah. At the very start of our relationship, shortage of money was an issue. I came to the relationship with all my student debts. We had a baby within the first year of meeting.
And I didn't really have any savings.
With money tight, Raymond and Jenny turned to credit cards to make up the shortfall in their spending.
None of it was, oh, let's get out of bed and, you know, spend a load of money today. It was all very normal things, but things that we needed. Buying baby clothes and all that kind of thing, and it just gradually grew and grew.
Jenny gave up her full-time job when their second child arrived, and the couple relied more and more on credit card money to supplement the household spend.
We was thinking, you know, oh, we need a holiday and we'll just shove it on the credit card and we'll pay it off over the year, and only you didn't quite pay it off. And then something else would happen, and, you know, your washing machine would break down, or the kids needed new school shoes or whatever, and it was just never quite managing. And so the debt just crept up, really, on us.
With credit cards building and a shortfall in the household income, Raymond and Jenny decided to sell their South Coast home, relocating closer to family in Derbyshire and hoping to clear some of their debt.
And at that point, it looked like there was enough equity that was going to clear all our debts. And, you know, for the first time ever, we were going to be debt-free. And then the house sale fell through, and we were paying for a mortgage and a house rental all at the same time. And the price that we could sell for suddenly dipped as well.
It was a kick in the gut, really, because we'd had that dangled in front of us, that you know, you could be free of debt, you can actually move on with your life, and then suddenly, through circumstances outside our control, that was snatched away. It was hard.
Raymond and Jenny did sell their South Coast home, but with only just enough equity for a deposit. They continued to have a high mortgage, and with no savings, debts continued to spiral out of control.
I was scared to look at the bank account. I was scared to open letters. So I was going and taking cash out of the bank on the credit card in order to float the bank account. And that just made me feel sick, because I knew it was wrong, but I didn't feel I had any choice. It's crushing being in that kind of debt and feeling trapped. I turned the blame in on myself, and I felt that I should have done better. I shouldn't have allowed myself to get into that situation. And all the time, the debt's getting greater and greater.
There were further changes in the circumstances that would make the situation even more precarious.
There was one day where Raymond was at work. I pulled up on the drive outside and thought, oh, his car's home. You know, he's come home early, isn't that lovely? And walked through the door and said, oh, what are you doing home early? And he said, oh, they're making people redundant.
In total, Raymond was made redundant 3 times in just 5 years.
I do remember times when I have sat in church on a Sunday morning and thought, I have no idea how I'm going to feed my children this week, and I don't feel comfortable telling anyone here what situation we're in. I still think it's a big taboo in society. It was a big, big secret. Our families didn't really know how much we were struggling.
That just adds to that feeling of being trapped, really.
Yeah.
Having unmanageable debt for their whole married life, Raymond and Jenny were at breaking point.
It was about £37,000. I think I'd just reached rock bottom. We were approaching the point where we were no longer going to be able to pay primary creditors, so the people that really matter, like your mortgage and your council tax and all those things. We were just, we'd stopped treading water and we were drowning by that point.
In November 2013, they finally decided to seek help.
I'd heard the name Christians Against Poverty through kind of church circles, rang the helpline, burst into tears, and the woman on the end of the phone was just amazing. And, you know, I thought they'd be really judgmental with us, and she really wasn't. Oh, the relief was just amazing, wasn't it?
Suddenly, it felt like somebody was on our side, and we didn't have to do it all on our own, and that was fantastic.
Once they'd contacted CAP, a local representative went out to their house, got all their paperwork together. We then were able to build a budget for them, and then it was a really sustainable budget. It was great. We then were able to offer and negotiate affordable repayment plans with their creditors. And yeah, they started on that journey out of debt then.
The recommendation was to repay within about 7 years. And 7 years just sounded like such a long time. CAP worked out a budget for us, so I knew exactly what we had to spend. We pay CAP one monthly sum. They would use some of that to pay our creditors. They would use some of that to basically save for us against any future needs that we would have. I think all bar one of our creditors stopped the interest and the charges. And of course that then makes it instantly easier to repay.
Everybody can get into debt at any point, and it spirals out of control so quickly. I would encourage people to seek that help as early as possible. You know, come to it. There's so many free kind of debt advice organisations that want to help you. There's no shame, there's no judgment. We just want to support you in becoming debt-free and getting back on your feet.
Raymond and Jenny only have a few months before they will have paid back every penny they have borrowed. For them, Christians Against Poverty has proved a lifeline. But for Jenny, it's also given her a new direction.
I've just taken over as Debt Centre Manager for Belper. My job involves going to see people at home to talk about their debt problems and explain to them how Christians Against Poverty can work with them to either repay their debt or help them through some form of insolvency. CAP have given us so much. They've given us back our peace of mind, our sense of security, our hope for the future. Yeah, CAP gave us hope, and it's just brilliant to be able to go out there and know that you're going to bring a bit of hope into someone else's life. There's just nothing better, really.
We're very much in a position where we can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
When you become debt-free with CAP, they ring you up and they blow harmonicas and make a big deal out of it, and yeah.
We're looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that.
In London, an ethical loan is enabling one man to turn his lifelong passion for sport into a full-time job.
I've played since a very young age in the back garden with my brothers. I couldn't think of anything better at that age than to be hitting a ball around.
In the shadow of the Oval cricket ground, 35-year-old Paul Cole has set up shop, selling specialist cricket gear to both amateur and professional players.
We're just weighing the bats here. Each bat is a different weight. That's 2.7, that one.
Oh, nice.
So look how grainy that one is for £100.
Well, you can claim the credit. I can't claim any credit.
That was particularly pleasing, that one. I remember when I was very young, I used to live in Lincolnshire, and there was a local shop, and I was just fascinated by all the gear, and it was just a massive interest of mine. It kind of was one of the reasons I just got into it. And then I realised a bit of a gap in the market in cricket, here in London especially, certainly within inner London, just nothing. Very difficult to access quality equipment. And also I thought there was a gap in the market online. Our setup is a bit different. We're not a traditional walk-in store. We offer knocking-in service, which is very specialist, very popular. refurbishing bats, that kind of thing. There's a lot that goes on. It's not just a store.
As well as his physical shop, he's harnessed the internet to connect with cricket fans around the world.
All right, Paul, ready to shoot?
Let's do this. Hi guys, it's Paul from Mitchell's Cricket and time for volume 46 of Paul's top 5 bats in our store. A lot of our competition are quite old-fashioned in their approach. They're not the strongest online, social media they know little about, or they're not even on it, that kind of thing. You know, it's more of an older generation, whereas we come at it from a younger point of view, which helps attract that sort of younger market.
Paul hasn't always been living his cricketing dream. In his 20s, he was working in sales in the events industry.
They actually rewarded me handsomely, but then that actually made me less interested in doing that job, ironically. It made me think, well, here's a pot of money. I'd rather spend that on something that I'm more passionate about. Because although I was successful in that job, I'd never quite had that passion. So I wanted to try my luck in an industry that I knew more about and cared more about, obviously, which is cricket.
In 2011, Paul took the plunge, left his old job and ploughed all his savings into starting his business. But within a few months, he was facing the first of many problems.
It proved to be very tough in 2012, especially because that year was one of the rainiest on record and half the season was wiped out. People just weren't playing cricket. That time was very difficult. We made a pretty big loss in the first year, as a lot of businesses do. And even in the second year, we made a much smaller, but still a loss. Late 2014, at that point also, we were coming up to the end of the lease on our existing unit. It was a 3-year lease, and we were kind of considering our options. We knew we had to move somewhere, and we knew we had to keep getting the stock going to keep us competitive. But as the initial investment had all dried up at that point, it was a real crossroads.
To keep trading, Paul needed to find £10,000 to fund a new lease and restock.
I didn't really want to approach the banks. The fact we couldn't report a profit, we couldn't show a profit, I was not confident that we would get funding from then, so hence looking for the alternative option.
He approached local not-for-profit lender Fair Finance for the £10,000 he needed. It helps individuals and businesses who have been excluded from mainstream financial services. Rob Benfield was in charge of Paul's loan application.
I first met Paul in August 2014. My first thoughts were that they were a retail shop, which is a fairly risky sector. The business has 2.5 years. Its previous accounts for the first 2 years were loss-making, and they have more liabilities than assets, which are all things that a normal mainstream lender would see as quite risky. On top of that, their lease on their shop was expiring in 2 months' time.
On paper, it certainly didn't look promising for Paul, but Rob dug deeper.
We actually look at 3 things, which are the character of the individual, whether the business model itself is viable, and whether it's affordable.
They came and met with us. They really got to understand, you know, they got to see beyond the balance sheet, beyond the profit and loss, and actually, well, look who's involved in this business, look how passionate we are, look how much we care about it. Got this nice new delivery of ton bats.
That's a T20 Premium?
Picked the other day.
How many did you go through for each one?
Quite a few, actually. Yeah, must have gone through well over 100 total.
First thing that was really important was Paul had a very clear vision.
67 spine. Try and get the specifications on the bats as detailed as we can.
They were a niche, independent provider of cricket equipment. Not only did he have the shop, but he had a really strong following on social media and online. And that buy-in by clients online really gives you confidence that they know what they're doing and they're providing a product that people want.
Fair Finance loaned Paul the £10,000 he needed.
It was a massive moment because had it not been for that, that probably would have been the end.
Rob is keen to see for himself how Paul is getting on, so has come to meet him at one of his suppliers.
Hi, Paul, good to see you.
You too, how's it going?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, busy. Just need to get more bats. That's why we're here.
How is the new premises? What does it look and feel like?
Well, it's gone well. I mean, it's very close to the Oval, where England plays, so it helps us a lot, you know, getting the footfall from there. Not just the people who are watching the games, but the people who are netting there. We still sell a little bit more online, but it's evening out, and that location has really been a big reason why it's boosted that side of the business.
It's really exciting to come to one of the manufacturers that are providing Paul, because not only do we give the funding to Paul and his business, but it filters down to jobs and other suppliers.
Got the ones we've selected as potentials, which we still need to go through and narrow it down to 10 or so. There's some really good ones here, but we can't take them all. These ones here are bats that we've narrowed down for a particular customer.
I think till I actually saw it, I didn't realise how much detail went into picking the exact bats for the specific customers.
The funding from the loan company has helped Paul's business go from strength to strength.
We have shipped to all continents of the world. Must be well over 70, 80 countries in total. This one's got 8 grains, a couple of little blemishes. It is Grade 1 plus English willow, of course, handmade in Yorkshire, England. Our YouTube channel has grown a lot in particular. We are around 30,000 subscribers now. 9 million views overall on the channel, over 9 million now.
And he now employs up to 3 part-time members of staff.
Hi guys, it's Chris here, and back again this month with our top 3 junior bats guaranteed, we think, to be the best out there.
It's really, really rewarding for me, but also brilliant to know that they've gone from strength to strength. So definitely no regrets in supporting this business.
But very well done to them. Moving on to number 3. You wake up in the morning, you look forward to every day, you know, which is something I couldn't say of my previous job, regardless of how successful it was. But this one in particular, of all the ones I've seen, has been far and away the most responsive off the mallet. It is very difficult. But if you believe in it, then anything's possible, and it's such a fun journey. If you're passionate about an idea that you think you have a gap in the market to fill, then why not? Just go for it. You know, you only live once, give it a go. And stay tuned for more. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.
At the Lewisham Plus Bromley Credit Union, Mum Christine is about to find out if she's been granted a loan to replace her broken fridge.
Good afternoon, Christine. Thanks for coming back. Normally we do have a 5-day window for the loan, but obviously I escalated your loan. I heard your plight. We're in a heat wave at the moment. You've got 2 young kids needing milk and everything else in your little business that you've started to venture out into, and you've already lost quite a bit of money on meats and stuff, haven't you?
All gone off.
So, would you like some really, really good news?
Yes, I do.
We've been able to approve your loan for 500.
Oh, thank you very much.
So now you can get your fridge freezer.
Yeah.
Kids are sorted in this weather, ice poles and everything.
Yeah.
You can see how happy you are.
My business is back
So,
again,
yeah,
hopefully.
you've been a really good member to us with your repayments and everything else. So, and that's when we can start rewarding people. So people that have, you know, looked after us, we can look after you.
Thank you.
So if you'd like to look at your loan agreements, so this is your whole new balance here of 762.94 pence, and your payments will just roll with your child benefit as normal, deductions, and the rest will go into your savings. You're still on the same interest rate, and all your terms and conditions remain the same as your previous loans. So if you'd like to go ahead and sign on the dotted line.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad we've been able to assist you so quickly.
Thank you very much.
We can't always do that, but, you know, it's an emergency.
It has been a setback, but I'll be back on top again. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Just to let you know, your funds will be in your account between 3 and 5 today. Glad we could help you.
All the excitement has got a bit much for 2.5-year-old Xavier.
He's totally crashed, bless him. Oh, he's been a little trooper. Take care of yourself, we'll see you soon.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye.